Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf. But how I want to start is a little bit about how I discovered or how I found out that you all exist. And I started to think about it. I like to get to this point where like, how did I find out about this emerging brand? I think it was Instagram. I was looking up something. You guys are still growing rapidly, but I'm a product hunter and I will find the brands. And I was like, I think it was actually Black Girl Ventures because I follow them. And I was looking for at the time, you guys hadn't made it to the top yet, but at the time I was looking at who was included because I'm like, I'm going to find out about these brands and support them. I knew about Mossy Mob and Miracle, and I was excited for her. And then I was like, that's when I fell in love with the cans, actually. You know, that's the first thing I told you. I'm like, the cans though, who did it? What agency? And you were like, Aaron.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. It's Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I was introduced to the brand. You guys have only been around for 11 months. I want to know your background. I know it. I want the Black on Shelf, the boss fam, as I call them, to hear your background, to hear how you and Aaron also met. So let's start there. That's a great place to start.
Yeah. Okay. So I started working in food and beverage, just like any other broke college kid, like waiting tables, you know, that whole thing, except for I was doing it in New York City, because that's where I went to school at. And New York City just has like this crazy culinary scene, you know? So I got like just forged by fire and like thrown into this like just really high level culinary scene while I was working. And so because of that, I got to meet some really cool people, some really like high level execs as I like graduated college and started moving into like sales and marketing.
Right.
So I always found myself like with these big corporations, but really wanting to work in like the food and beverage side of it. So
and let's actually pause right there. Let's run those receipts because Kayla legit has worked for some big corporations, Major League Baseball. We're running the receipts, Starwood Hotels and Resorts Worldwide, Coca-Cola, and now her own venture. We got to run them receipts because people got to know about this excellence happening here. Okay.
Yeah. You know, and it's one of those things where what I'm doing now is such a culmination of all of those things, you know. I wouldn't have really gained my footing had I not learned all of the corporate side of things, which I think is very important to have. Even if you know that your heart and your passion is not in a corporation, there's undoubtedly like the foundation that they give you as to like how the world works when it comes to CPG is just like unparalleled. So I started working for Major League Baseball. I actually like I was a waitress for like a bunch of Major League Baseball execs. They're like, hey, you can sell really damn good. Like you should probably apply for a job.
So is this why you're winning all your pitch competitions? Is it the sales background? You're like, you can sell your thing, your product. You can sell.
I've always been a people person. I like talking to people. So that's kind of how things started there. And then, so it just kind of steamrolled corporation after corporation, and I landed with Coca-Cola.
Right.
And my job there was market development. So basically like a mix of sales and marketing where like my job was I would go out into the field and talk to these small business owners or these event planners or sometimes big business owners and stores and stuff and figure out like what brands in the Coke portfolio would help them make money. Because if you make money, then we're making money. And so that's really how I started to learn the ins and outs of beverage and like, how does retail work? And like, what are slotting fees and the distribution models, you know, all this crazy stuff that I just wouldn't have learned otherwise. And so did that for a few years, but really wanted to put my skills to better use outside of a corporation, you know, because corporations like Coke are so big that you don't always feel the impact that you make. So I started consulting for beverage startups, and me and my boyfriend were actually street vendors, I guess. We own a little trailer and we sell like aguas frescas out of it. And so we're always just
Homemade,
like
like the ones that you guys made. Oh,
yeah, like
wow. So this
homemade.
is not really, it's new, but it's not new.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Oh.
I always tell people like, no, like literally, like I'm a street vendor. You know, like yeah, like you can find me
I
on the
love that.
corner, go to your farmer's market, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I started consulting for beverage startups. And one project that I took on, Aaron was actually C-suite there. And so that's how we met. But we met the first week that the global pandemic was announced. And then like a couple weeks later, she went on maternity leave to have a baby. So it was just a crazy, crazy time for us to meet. And I always joke about like, yeah, we only knew each other for a little bit, but like real recognize real, you know?
Yeah.
It was one of the things where like I had never worked with someone else, another woman especially, that like outworks me every day, you know? And I loved that about her. But yeah, she went to have a baby. The pandemic rolled into town. We like lost our jobs, you know, but we had really bonded over like just a shared interest in beverage and still wanting to do something that, you know, like gave us the freedom to make these decisions and put our skill set to use. And we also had like thousands of data points on like what consumers wanted from all of our years of working in the space. And then I really wanted to make something that was like culturally reflective of myself. Like I wanted to see myself in the South and like see the stuff that my family does like represented in the grocery store. So I was like, hey, I think let's do aguas frescas. And we like
So
kind of
take
ran
us
it
through that moment actually. Like what was those conversations? You all started to get to know each other. You recognize you had these similarities. She was Mexican, you're Mexican. What was the conversation like? You lost your job, which is kind of like in some ways like the worst time to be creating because something needs money, but at the same time it's the best because you're like, I'm going to create something that no one can take away from me. What was going through you guys' mind? What was that conversation like? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it's
was
really
it a
funny
series of conversations?
It happened very quickly because I literally have like the text message that I sent her, like, so I was thinking aguas frescas and like, you know, and then we had like a Google Doc essentially of like things that we could think would do really well in the market. But then the more and more that we thought about it, it was like, no, this is really what I want to do. Like we could bring like our culture into this and like, you know, just a beautiful like homage to our heritage. And like I was mentioning it before, like for Erin, her dad was like born in Mexico and adopted by an American family. So she grew up a little bit like outside of the culture.
Yeah.
And
which a lot of Americans now can recognize, they can resonate with that. You know, you're a little distant from where you were from, but you still feel like you're something else and you want to attach to that. Was this a moment for you guys to sort of like deepen into your heritage?
Yeah, I think for Erin, it was like a really cool way to reconnect with her heritage. Because on the flip side, I grew up like always knowing like you are Latina, you're Afro Latina, like, you know, like you got some kinky hair, you know, like there's no mistaking
now,
what you are.
did you go back during your childhood? What was that direct connection? I know a lot of that was already in this California area and in your home for sure, but what was your physical connection to Mexico?
For us, no, I didn't go back to Mexico a lot. I feel like I live in this space very like decidedly like Mexican American, you know, like my family immigrated from Mexico to Texas and then migrant farm work brought them from Texas to California. And I feel like this is like a super common story for lots of like migrant farm workers, you know, like they were just working in the fields. I'm the first generation of my family that's never had to work in the fields, which is like so crazy, you know, like
but then like your product is coming from the fields and you're doing something different with it. You're on the business side. That's actually cool, full circle. I do want to touch on that at some point, how your family is responding to this shift, you know, because you are the first one creating this business and working for yourself successfully at this point.
Yeah, I think sometimes they don't fully understand like what's happening. Like, oh, like I don't understand like what do you mean you own a startup? You know what I mean? But like overall, they're just like so proud and they are so excited. I have like nothing but brothers who are just like ultimate hype men all the time. Like, go get that. I don't know if I can curse, but like, you know, like,
yes.
you know, like,
go
you know,
get
like,
it.
you know, and like every pitch competition, you know, like texting me, hyping me up and stuff like that. You know, and
it's a big deal. They get it. They get that it's a big deal, even if they don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Are they helping in the business at all?
Oh yeah. Every one of them has to like, I mean, unpaid.
Free labor, family.
Yeah. Like that's how we keep labor costs down. It's like my brothers deliver. No, I mean, it's all helping hands. If I ever need like packages boxed up, like Cinco de Mayo was a huge day for us. So it was like my brothers out there delivering boxes, like my mom, my tias, my cousins, like packaging, taping, like, you know, printing out things, helping us break down pallets. So it's definitely like my family is present in our business. So it feels good to have their help and just be able to like celebrate all of these wins with them.
I love that. So, you know, we heard a little bit about you and Aaron, how you guys met, how you two met. Talk to me about like your comfort with being able to connect with another founder. Many times we talked about earlier before we got to start the podcast, there is this thing with women founders today, you know, that many of us want to lead it on our own. Also, sometimes some of us just can't find someone else. So I'm curious to know what made this moment feel right. Had you tried to start something before? What kind of went into the decision of I'm going to do it with her, and kind of you feeling really confident that she was the right person and that you two would build something together? Talk us through what that might look like. And then as a part of that answer, talk to what can people do to find their co-founder, and kind of based off your checklist of what you were looking for, what might they want to consider?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think that like there's a level of commitment that comes along with building a company. You know, like we're in a season of winning right now, but it came after.
I'm here for it too.
I'm telling everyone, like, no, you're gonna hear about this because I'm winning. We're finally in a season of winning. Like, I want to share it with everyone.
Yes,
but
thank you.
It came after a year of really hard work, a lot of sacrifices, like a lot of like, okay, we're not taking a salary because we're trying to make this work. Like, okay, what's our personal risk tolerance? How much can we put in that? So I think like
the real basically.
Yes, exactly. So it's like the level of sacrifice that you'll have to make to try to make something work is very high. And so I think like knowing from the start that we were both equally as committed to making it work, but also had like a hard timeline in mind. Like if it doesn't have some traction by this date, you know, we need to reevaluate things, was helpful. Also, Aaron,
what was that date? What was that date, by the way? Or what was that time frame? Was it a year? Was it 6 months, 3 months?
For us, it was, you know, this has been a blessing. We had told ourselves May.
Okay.
We had always told ourselves May. And then May like rolled around and ended up being just like a monster of a month. And it was just like all these affirmations that like, that was the right timeline to give it. Now we are like,
so from March to May, you gave yourself from March to May in a global pandemic. I'm just like Aaron. I'm just like Aaron and Kayla. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
You know, we have little ones. So it's one of those things where, you know, like you start to think about other people, not just yourself, you know what I mean? And, but like, that's also a big motivation on like, to make it work, you know, is because like there's little ones and we want to be able to have a business that we can operate on our terms. So that way we can still like be with our families and like, you know, lay these foundations for hopefully generational wealth for, you know, for our family. And so, so we gave ourselves about a year to like really have that hard check-in on like, is this working? Is it not? Thankfully it is working. We're very happy that it is working. But just really like work ethic, especially during the pandemic. Aaron and I have only physically met in person one time.
Which is insane how much you've gotten done. It speaks to the ability to be virtual. Many companies are doing it. You as a startup are doing it too. And I'm sure it's harder as a startup with so much more touch points and strategic conversations, but you're doing it. What have you been leveraging to get that done and to feel confident?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of Zoom calls. It's a lot of text messages. Like Aaron jokes around that like we talk to each other more than we talk to our boyfriends who we live with. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where like that clear communication, but then also supporting each other with like boundaries too. Hey, you know what? Why don't you step away from Agua Bonita for a day? Or like, hey, I can do this. Like, take a break, enjoy the day, or, go on a walk with Max or enjoy your birthday or something, So I think that just having someone that like recognizes that like when it's time to work, it's really time to work. But there's also a time to work and a time to do other things.
Yeah, I really like how you were able to use this period of time. I want to kind of zoom in on you guys lost your job during the pandemic. That is a big deal. And what you did with it versus maybe something others might do with it. It's not necessarily a comparison, but just to highlight it. That's a big deal that you were able to create something and really push and not let yourself really get down when something so devastating like a pandemic is happening. And when you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. Am I wasting my money? But you bet on yourself. I think that's so amazing. Is the fear gone at this point? Did you have any fear? Is it gone at this point? What are you feeling? What did that feel like then? And what are you feeling like now?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I never like knock how anyone spent their pandemic time because, it took a different on everyone in a different way. Yeah. And so like, we chose to create this with the time at hand, but like, no pressure if you didn't, you know what I mean?
None. It was a hard year, which is why it's so admirable that you were able to muster that strength to do something also so hard in a hard year.
So for us though, because it was such a hard year for everyone, I think that that's the space that we moved in was like, even if this fails, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, look at the world right now. Like there's a lot of stuff failing right now. Like a lot of people are not in great shape. A lot of businesses are not in great shape. So what happens? This fails. And then we're one of the many failed businesses that are like, so
it was around. More like a why not, right? It was like a why not? We don't really have anything to lose here, perhaps.
Yes, there is nothing to lose. Like there was absolutely nothing to lose besides the opportunity to not pursue it. That was the only thing that we were gonna lose if we didn't. So
okay. So I know the boss fam is gonna be curious. Okay, we start this business. I worked in beverage, so I also know there was a can shortage. What did that look like for you starting a beverage startup in a time where there's a can shortage? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I like I said, this was a culmination of a lot of things in the past. When I was doing like my consulting work for a small time, I worked as an aluminum can broker. So I had like a Rolodex of aluminum can contacts to call on.
That's amazing.
Even though like there was, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it was a lot of like maybe divine intervention and just the right time and the right people doing it all at once. I don't like to like short sell ourselves because we worked really, really hard for it. But it was just like, it was a lot of years in the making to like have the overnight success that we're kind of coming into right now.
Yeah. And you were prepared, you had those contacts, you had that background, and maybe for the first time it felt like, oh my gosh, I feel so in my purpose, so in destiny. Is that how you're feeling?
Yeah. My birthday was like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And I was talking to my cousin and I was just telling him like, I feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing right now, and they were just like, that's amazing. I think that that's what everyone wants to feel like. And it is scary. Like you said, like, is the fear gone? No, it's not gone. The fear will not be gone until we're like acquired or something. You know what I mean? But I think it's like a good motivation to like always get up because it's like, you want to win. You want to put something out there that can resonate with people and do it in a way that like really aligns with your ethos and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like I am walking in my purpose in what I'm doing right now.
Absolutely. So everyone's process is different for starting something, but what would you name as some of the key steps that you took when you started? What was it a business plan? Was it figure out how to make this thing? What was your kind of core journey or steps, you and Aaron, to getting this thing developed? Include branding, include process, all of that stuff. Talk to us about sort of the time frame and the steps that you took.
Yeah. For us, it was really at the onset, like writing down what is most important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So like for us, one thing was like no plastic. Like we're not going to use any plastic, which was why we used cans. It would be cheaper, easier. No, there's no plastic shortage going on to like do it in plastic, but we're like, that's something non-negotiable. We wanted something that could have a direct impact on the communities that we operate in. So, you know, rescuing produce and then reinvesting it back into like nonprofit partners that help migrant farm workers. It's like very personal to me, you know what I mean? And very resonates with Aaron a lot too in like our sustainability. So that was, you know, another non-negotiable, like we want to have that impact. And then on the flip side of that was like, what are things that we will not do? Like, what are things we want to avoid? So like cold supply chain, like we had both worked on projects that needed cold supply and we're like, that's too much of a headache. Like, we're not gonna do that. So like, keep that in mind as we're making whatever we make, that we're not gonna do that. And and like on the point of branding, we did like a big Pinterest board and like, you know, textiles from our homes and inspirations from our childhood to create these things. And Aaron really like whipped them all together. But like there's this whole like movement of like very minimalist design out there right now, you know, like everything's like all matte black or like nude and stuff like that, which looks beautiful. I'm guilty of it. My bathroom looks like that. My kitchen kind of looks like that. But we wanted to do the exact opposite
Mexican
in a way.
culture, splatter it on the can. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we wanted it to be like in your face. If we get 5 seconds of your time on like sitting on a shelf, like we want you to know right away, like, hey, hello, we're here. You know,
Aaron gets super props for the packaging because I literally have stared at this can. I told you I had a hard time throwing it away, and I've sent it to multiple friends. Like, isn't this can beautiful? But that's how I am with packaging too. But we give Aaron her props on that. I love the branding, and it's so cool that you all just were able to pull everything together and get your aesthetic. And I also love at this point, you know, you have the straw, the wooden straw, going back to your sustainability efforts. You have the coaster. I love those touches. Where does that come from? Why did you want to bring that party in a box, that moment, that what inspired you to sort of package it in that way and give that experience to your customers? What went into that?
Well, I think you just said it is like an experience, right? It's not just about like the product, it's about the whole experience. So like, how do we envision folks like interacting with our product and like, what's our perfect setting, you know? And it's like, oh, we want you to like be like next to the pool, like hanging out, drinking this, like, you know what I mean? And like relaxing, and like, no, you don't even need to pour it in a can. Just throw a straw in there, drink it straight out the can. Like, you know, really thinking about in our minds, what's the like vibe we can give you? Like, if we can package up a vibe and send that to you, like, what does that look like? And so those little touches stem from that. And like in other things that we plan on doing, like that is the whole thing, is like giving an experience, giving a feeling, not just a product. And I feel like that goes like way further with people than just being like, yeah, just have a drink.
Yeah. And I know, you know, with creating a product, there's several options you can go. Did you all decide to do a contract manufacturer who can help you with getting the product into cans, or did you do it entirely on your own, maybe a commercial kitchen or something? What route did you decide for your production?
Yeah, so for us, you basically have to go co-manufacturer because cans, are tricky. Like, I mean, unless you're just like super well capitalized and have a full staff. I mean, this machinery is expensive, you know what I mean? So co-manufacturing was definitely the way for us. I would have loved to be able to do it in like a small commercial kitchen. We'd probably iterate a lot of recipes quicker that way, but for us is kind of like you have to go the co-man way.
So where do you do your development? Is it in the kitchen, or you work with the co-man to sort of just crystallize what you're looking for?
So everything starts in the kitchen. My boyfriend helps a lot as well. Him and his mom, whenever she's home from Mexico, we all jump
straight from Mexico. Yes.
Yeah. And just like also like flavors just from my family and childhood. So like our watermelon chile is supposed to be like, you know, watermelon chunks with tahini, and that's like something like grandpa would always give us. So really just kind of like drawing on these experiences and these flavor combinations, and then stuff that is really like just true to our culture. Like for our spices, we use like jalapeno and chile instead of like ginger, because I mean ginger, a lot of like spicy drinks, it's a ginger drink, which is cool, but like in my household, in my kitchen growing up, we'd never really used ginger for anything. So I wanted it to be very true to those roots. So it starts in the kitchen, then we work with the food scientist to try to like match on a commercial scale what we make. And then it gets shipped off to the co-manufacturer to like mix it up and batch it.
What's the thing that surprised you the most about working with a contract manufacturer, getting a product done, finished good? What's the thing that surprised you the most that you could share with the boss fam who might be going through this process right now or considering it, and they're like, I don't even know what to expect? What would you share with them based on where you are now?
Very high minimum order quantities. And that's something that I think that you have to brace yourself for when you start going the co-manufacturer way, which is unfortunate. And it's just like a reality of the business is like, it starts at like 150,000 units. And even if you can afford to make that many, you need to have a place to put them and like a plan to sell them and stuff. So I would always say like, make sure you negotiate as much as possible and like get the most out of like small pilot runs, or look for co-manufacturers that are like capable of doing small runs, but just have those conversations because it'll save you a lot of money, especially just starting out. You don't want to make 150,000 units of something that doesn't taste the way that you want it to taste, so brace yourself for those kinds of conversations because the MOQs are high, and it doesn't get any easier to see them every time a new quote comes in.
Yeah, that's a really good note there, to just brace yourself. Some things are status quo and we hope those change. I think it has been a thing that there is greater access to brokers, to contract manufacturers. I think in the past that was a big barrier to why people don't start. It's still a bit of a barrier, but you can now you can research this stuff. So I'm curious, what are some of the resources you use to get to know more of the food industry? You worked in it for a time, specifically in beverage, so some of that you would have known, but what resources as an entrepreneur now did you look into to say, let me learn more? Here's a place with some good content.
Yeah. So a good foundation came from working for Coca-Cola. But other good resources were reaching out to founders or companies already in the space and just asking them the questions that you need answered. There are a lot of people that don't want you to have to learn things the hard way, the way that they had to learn it. So if you have a question, like find someone and ask. Also, another good thing for us was we went through an accelerator program, and that helped us fill some gaps in other like capacities that we just didn't have on the team. So like, a freight specialist or, a food scientist, stuff like that. So I'd also say like, look into an accelerator program that you think that you can get a lot out of, because if you find the right program, shout out to SKU. That was the one that
SKU ATX.
Great program. Highly recommend them if you're in CPG.
So for those who don't know what an accelerator does and the value of it, can you talk to what you gained from it? What is an accelerator? What was your experience? Who else was in it? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So an accelerator program is basically a program designed to help your business scale, accelerate, which is why they call it Accelerator program. So through your participation in the program, they're all structured a little differently, but usually you get mentorship and, you know, some industry contacts. Some of them will give you capital to help you execute on some of the ideas that they give you, so that way you can like successfully implement them. So for ours, we went through a consumer packaged goods focused accelerator program, which is called SKU. And so for us, our mentors all came with CPG backgrounds or something complementary to CPG. Like I said, like freight, you know, which is like if you're going to start sending stuff, you got to know
across the
like
country, right?
how does that work, you know? And we would meet with them every week for like an intensive, like subject specific class basically. And then we would meet with our mentor team at like a standing weekly meeting. So we did that for like 5 months. For us, it was great. You know, time is money. And if you're going to spend your time figuring out the like really tough questions that you have, like it's worth it to just have the resources or someone on hand that you can just ask the question and get your answer quickly and instead of like spending 6 months trying to figure it out. I would definitely recommend going through an accelerator program. Ours has had some really notable alumni, like Siete Foods, which they're amazing. You can find them in Whole Foods. Like they're kind of really rocking the Mexican American thing too. And then our cohort in particular, even like there's Shaz and Keeks, which they are like Indian hair care. So other women of color founders. I mean, I can go on and on. Our cohort was amazing. But yeah, so if you can find an accelerator program that you think will help you fill the gaps in your business where you just don't know, would highly recommend trying to get into one.
Yeah. When you think back, did you expect at this point, for one, did you ever think you'd be an entrepreneur? And then also when you think back where you would be at this point prior to COVID, was this ever in the cards for you?
I have always considered myself an entrepreneur. I think even in like high school, I was like the one, you know, like selling bracelets, working in the student store, that kind of stuff. So that, yes, I always knew that I'd be working in like some capacity, owning my own business. Did I think that we would be doing this exact thing right after COVID? No, because I never thought that COVID would happen. So, you know, So I didn't foresee it happening the way that it happened. Very glad that it did. Always felt like it would, but didn't anticipate it happening the way that it did.
So when's your official 12 months? When does that mark?
So we became a company officially in like July, like last day of July or first day of August last year, but we didn't send out any product until December 31st, 2020. So we've actually only been
development and stuff was happening then.
So I would say like actual last day of this year is like 12 months in the market, like one actual year of being in the market. And that's probably like the anniversary that we'll celebrate is like, hey, our very first order shipped New Year's 2020.
Wow. So you know, what's amazing is for those that don't know, during that, it's not like 11 months period or less at this point, Univision national TV spot, Natural Product Expo West, Pit Slam, Rising Star Award winner, a grant from Kroger. We talked about that for there. And you can tell us more about this too. I'll list them all because we're listing the resume here. This happened in 11 months, like Kayla and Aaron are stars, you know, for their innovation with surplus foods, their waste foundation. You'll tell us more about that. Nike and Black Girl Ventures pitch competition, appearing in the Wall Street Journal, being a part of SKU ATX, Accelerator. I mean, it is a chunk of things that have happened. A very dynamic 11 months. Has it felt like the whirlwind that this resume is telling us has happened? All the preparation that goes into being able to show up at these very visible platforms. What has that felt like? And which of these moments have you been most proud of, most surprised of, have learned the most from? Just talk us through some of these events.
Yeah, it it has felt like the whirlwind that it sounds like. But I will say the excitement is still there. I am still just as excited when we win a new award as I was when we made our first $10, because it just every single time is like, oh yes, like, like someone wants to try our drinks, or like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yes, it's just like that affirmation of like,
Yeah.
I get to share this with you, and I'm so excited to share this with you. And I think that that is just like the energy that I approach every single one of these with, is like, this is just an opportunity to share Agua Bonita with someone else, with someone new. But it has been crazy, especially, yeah, it's been kind of like back to back to back. We're even coming up, we're going to be like competing for best new beverage of 2021. So hoping, yeah, we can bring that home too. We'll see. But yeah, it just is, our inboxes have been flooded.
Yes.
I will say that it's been a lot of introductions that we always willingly take. And yeah, just mixing and mingling and trying to like keep the wheels on this bus going. Hopefully it's more of a rocket ship than a bus, but yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah. What would you say has surprised? What opportunity was the most surprising one that you and Aaron have had?
Honestly, I think I was most shocked to get the Natural Products Expo West Rising Star,
That's an
because
amazing award.
yeah, it's so amazing. And the other companies that were a part of the pitch competition are much more established,
Mhm.
and like have, a few years under their belts, heftier like sales figures to tout. And like you can walk in your stores and see them there,
Right.
which we're almost there, not there just quite yet, but so just to be in such great company and then come home with an award for it, was very exciting. And just like, I was like, oh, like I was very genuinely like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. And it just speaks to, again, we talked about affirmation being a big part of what has kept you going. Those all are tremendous affirmation, and likely will help you keep going on the times when it's the middle passage period where you're like, we're trying to get somewhere, that middle period where you're just not yet where you want to be, but further out from where you were, you know. It'll help you
yeah.
just to have that milestone to say, we did that, we can do some other things.
Yeah, with the Black Girl Ventures and Nike pitch competition, like there were pages of comments, that you could leave after you voted. And like I went through and like screenshotted them all, because I'm like, there's gonna be a day where I need to like look back at these and remember that like there's lots of people supporting you, lots of
Yeah.
people that, like, want your drinks and have good stuff to say about you, So I'm like, I'm just gonna save these for a rainy day, when I need to come back and like,
Hmm.
feel that spark again.
Talk to us about how you started, how you got the name, how you decided who was going to be your customer. Has what you thought lived up to who it actually is so far today?
Yeah, so our name, we wanted something that was obviously like reflective of our culture and could kind of go hand in hand with aguas frescas, but wasn't like too difficult for people to say or understand. And agua and bonita are like
Easy.
very easy. Like, I mean, I feel like even if you don't know Spanish, you know what agua is, you know what bonita means. So that was kind of how we decided on a name. Um, then for our customer segment, we knew that it was going to be kind of two ends of the spectrum, that there was going to be like the Hispanic consumer that wanted something that was just like a better for you version of a cultural staple, who
Mm-hmm.
didn't really care too much about, oh, how much sugar does this have? Like, they weren't going to get into the nitty gritty of like, oh, I can't have, you know, the cleanest label around. They just like still wanted it to taste good. Like they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's better,
Mm-hmm.
but like I still need the taste to be
Yeah.
on point.
Yeah. Good
So
ingredients, all of that.
yeah, exactly. They're like, I want this to still taste like an agua fresca. So And we have had those customers where it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, I just get this for the convenience and because I like aguas frescas, and yeah, it's like, you know, not so much sugar. But then we knew that there was going to be another customer segment that like really cared about what the label was like, you know, like wants it to be all natural, no added sugar, like, you know, just kind of the cleanest label that you can get. So we really tried to represent both in our product. So that way we could, you know, capture both of those customers. We started with product market fit, which is like kind of different than I think most companies do it. They kind of like create something, then find their market. We kind of like reverse engineered things. So I would say that we have found success with the people that we intended to find success with.
Yeah, no, that's really excellent that you were able to find that group and continue talking. What would you say is next for Agua Bonita?
Oh, well, next for Agua Bonita is really just expanding. We want to get into more retailers, because right now we've done so much direct to consumer and Instagram and things like that, but we really want to be available to you just like at your local grocery store. And so we have this great partnership with Kroger with their zero waste and zero hunger cohort.
Yes.
And
so this is a grant. Tell us about the grant now that we're on it. Tell us more about the grant. Yeah.
Yeah. So this grant, this is the second time that they have run this program, and it is specifically to support companies that are trying to decrease food waste or make sure that, you know, eradicate hunger. And so we are uniquely positioned in that we rescue up and upcycle produce and then like reinvest it into those communities. So yeah, so it's a great initiative. Other companies are like taking barley and making milk out of it, you know, which is like a byproduct of like beer. And then, you know, like just creating like baking flours and mixes out of like all of these byproducts and stuff. So it's really just like trying to eliminate waste and being like a less wasteful society in general. Because really there should be no one in our country, for as developed as we are, that goes hungry.
I agree. And I think, you know, I wanted to touch on, there was a lot that you had to do to build this business, but you also both had a lot of skills. What were some of the areas where you were able to save because you were able to do it based on the skills both of you had? So I know Aaron does design. That was something when I saw the beautiful packaging, who made it? Aaron made it. That's one area I'm assuming that you were able to have your in-house team, you know, both of you, that's something you guys can do. What else was a part of your skill set or strength as a team?
Yeah, so fortunate for her, because I could just be like, hey, I want this. I think this is cool. And she's like, oh, say less.
Yes,
like, you know?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah, but I think another area where we've been able to save is really kind of like not
save
needing
or shine.
someone.
Save or shine.
Like just not needing someone to navigate tough conversations for us, like when it comes to sales and things like that. Because given our backgrounds, we had a good idea of like, this is where our cost of goods should land. And like, these are the things that we have to think about as we make this, like the distribution model and, you know, the product margins that retailers are going to want and things like that. So not having to outsource any of that work and just already knowing it. Some finance work. Our angel investor is actually a CFO. So, I mean, great person to have to like be like, hey, I really need a cash flow analysis. Like, can you help me with that? To understand like, where is your money going and like, how does this best serve you? And then just like a sales team, I guess Aaron and I both have a background of like getting in front of customers and, you know, figuring out what they like and stuff. So that helps to kind of have like an in-house sales team too.
So you mentioned angel investor. Have you already taken on money? And this seems like someone who is a smart investor for you. They're also able to give you some guidance. How did you find this person? What did you look for in them? Was this someone you already knew? Talk to us a little bit more about that process of like finding some of the mentors for your business, some of the advisors for your business.
Yeah. So our original angel investor, we were just introduced through mutual contacts, and he's been great. I mean, honestly, he took a big chance with us because at the time that we were introduced, we were just a concept. And he was courageous enough to be like, I think you have something here. And like, here's some money to help, get you to the next step. So very, very thankful for him and his skill set in finance. The accelerator program that we went through was very helpful in filling out like the rest of our advisory board and having that mentorship, but also connecting us with, possible investors. They're all themselves accredited investors. So that helps, is that like people that are like taking a good look at your business also like have the money to help if they feel so inclined. And if not them, then they might have friends that will want to, so we just did our demo day with the program like a week ago. So that has started with SKU. Yeah.
Okay.
We just went through the demo day with SKU about a week ago. So so we're still like starting to facilitate those conversations, because now that we are formally fundraising, like we're just taking any introductions, and introductions that you meet from people trying your drinks and saying like, hey, actually I know someone that might be interested in this. So even just like getting that word of mouth mill kind of rolling, and the pitch competitions don't hurt either.
Oh, I was going to say, like, that's a big place for visibility, and great conversations come from after that. Because, the one things about access is if you don't have access, sometimes you also don't have visibility to the people with the resources. And so one thing these great competitions are doing, Nike Black Girl Ventures, for example, giving you more visibility so people recognize, some folks are like, I don't know, Black businesses, brown businesses, starting companies. You're like, really? We're the group starting the most, so we should be getting a lot of the funding. And that's not quite the case. But I love that you've been able to find the right opportunities that are giving you that access, whether it's more Black and brown centered or just industry wide. And you're saying, hey, I'm going to show up and be my best self. They're going to see me if I do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like a delicate balance of both, of like, finding your people and like seeing people that like also want to help elevate Black and brown business owners and like pursuing those opportunities. But then also, like kind of drilling deep into the industry. I don't know if a few months ago, if we would have had the extra capital to justify like getting a booth at Natural Products Expo S, like those take investment, and it's like you have to pay to attend, and then you pay for your whole booth setup, and it's a lot of prep, but being able to pitch there like gave us just a whole nother level of visibility that like probably even more than if we would have just had a booth, so really kind of like pursuing all of these placements in a strategic way, all these competitions in a strategic way.
One thing you made me think about was around all of the competitions you were able to find. You're kind of a master at it at this point. What are you doing? Tell the people what they can do. Tell the boss ma'am how they can really position themselves to find a lot of these opportunities where you're able to pitch or you're able to apply for a grant. What are you doing? Scouring the internet. What are you putting in? Tell them.
So a few really great resources. If you are not already a part of Hello Alice, they are a great platform for women-owned businesses. We actually got one of our first grants through Hello Alice in conjunction with Danny Garcia, who she is like the Rock's business partner, really badass woman. So that helped us a lot. So definitely sign up for things like that.
Gems, guys.
Also, so number one. Number two, like, let the Instagram algorithm help you. Okay. Like, I know you're always like scrolling, everyone's like looking at the shit that they want to look at, but like go and start like double tapping on like business ads and like stuff centered for entrepreneurs, because the algorithm will retarget you with these opportunities. You know, like I came across the Black Girl Ventures and Nike pitch competition from an Instagram ad.
Yep, me
so
too.
you know, so
Yep,
like let
you're
it
right.
let it do its job and like retarget you. So like, you know, make sure that like what you are consuming online is reflective of like what you want to do with your life.
I Fund Women is one that I know of as well. I Fund Women. That's enough. They tend to share other opportunities going on too and sort of aggregate it. So that's a good one to follow. I would add that one.
Yeah, exactly. Women. And then then just always like a good old fashioned like Google search, especially if you are in like a very particular industry, or like if you already know too that there's some big ones that your industry has. Like I know BevNET puts on the best new beverage showdown every year. So like I bookmark on my calendar to like be looking for it, you know, and like Natural Products XOS. I know it comes every year. You know what I mean? Like put it on your calendar. Like we have stuff
prepared for it, right? Yeah,
exactly. So like if you know that that's where you want to be, like write it down, manifest that shit, put it on your calendar, and like make sure you're prepared. So
amen to that. I totally agree. And you know, you talked to us about what's next. You talked to us about sort of the journey. You shared great resources that I hope people will go back and bookmark, like Kayla mentioned, and also like thinking about some of the things she thought about when it comes to a co-founder. One question I want to make sure we do get is, tell us if you think you could have done all of like the same amount accomplished if you were working. What was the importance of you perhaps being able to be full-time? Was there, when you think about your schedule today, how would that work when you imagine what your normal day looks like pre-COVID?
yeah, it wouldn't have worked. I don't think that it would have worked. I was already juggling multiple projects being a consultant. Right. So like, you know, had my hands in a lot of different buckets helping different companies. So being able to truly just like focus on kind of like one project, especially if you have little ones. We have 2 little ones, like at my house, Aaron has a little one. Like that is in and of itself is like a whole time commitment outside of work. And then raising like
a family. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then like really, if you have a support system, let them help you. You know, like I said, me and my boyfriend are street vendors. So like, yeah, we would go and do events to like help, you know, make some ends meet and, you know, get cash in. And because I knew like, okay, if I'm going to continue to pour all my time into this, like we need to go like book some county fairs, you know, like to like try to do it. And he has been just so gracious in supporting me through, you know, through my entrepreneurial journey. But had it been the way that it was before, especially working as much as I was, it just would not have worked trying to make Agua Bonita work with a full-time job with 2 kids, trying to be a good girlfriend. Like it just doesn't.
So it definitely was a blessing in disguise of being able to accelerate your, you know, forcefully make sure you build something and kind of the perfect storm. It literally was the perfect storm to say, go this way. And it felt really right for you. And then,
yeah, exactly.
I'm so inspired by your story because 11 months of hard work totally shows. I mean, I think it looks like you've done more than 11 months worth of work, but it's only been 11 months. And that's, you know, Aaron and Kayla are octopuses, right? They are moms with multiple hands. And the reality is they're just using their day and their time very well. They're passionate about it. You have a different level of energy when you're passionate about something, also when it's yours. So I love that your experience really has allowed you to birth such a great idea. It instantly, you're like, why did this not exist on the market? Why didn't it exist? Why did no one think of this really? It's so amazing. Have you got that feedback?
It's one of those things where it's like, this was a glaring hole
in like the market. In plain sight, right? It's in plain sight. It doesn't exist, but everybody knows what it is.
Exactly. And so it's like, why were you guys not doing this? Like, let's just do this. And I think that has helped too. But yeah, I mean, for anyone listening to, highly recommend getting a co-founder because you, as much as we would all like to think that we can do it all, you can go further if you have someone to help you do that. So, you know, and sometimes you just need someone there that really gets the moment that you're in, you know? Like I can't always explain things to my boyfriend. It would take me longer to explain to him what the problem is than to just be like, yeah, we have a problem, you know, like vent about it.
Mm-hmm.
So co-founders are great, not just for the work that you can accomplish together, but just to have someone, you know, share in those moments with you, good or bad.
Yeah. And on the mom side, what do you tell your boys? Boys, right? You have two
So
boys?
they're actually my nephews.
Oh, your
But
nephews.
yeah, they live with us. So I've had them since they're like 6 weeks old. So it feels like
Oh,
they're ours.
wow.
But, they're 2 and 3 years old. So they don't really understand too much except for when I'm like, okay, I really need you to be quiet right now. Or like, yes, you can be on this Zoom call or not, you know? So, but I'm excited to see where Agua Bonita will be at the time that they can start to understand what Agua Bonita is, you know, and um, it's fun. You know, we have all of these like behind the scene pictures of like Aaron and her son Max, like, you know, him just like being an assistant is what we call it. But, you know, these kids are not worth their weight in help. But, but it's fun.
I love that. Are there any closing words? I will ask this one question first, and it is for you. Being Black on Shelf, I'll say this, Black on Shelf is really about the Black and brown experience of being an entrepreneur and having something on the digital and retail shelves. You first sold on the digital shelves, and now you're making your way in retail. We didn't get to touch quite on which retailers you're in, so I'll give you a second here to talk about going from selling online to then getting your first product on retail shelves. Where was that? What did that feel like? What was that first process like?
Yeah, so we are in a very limited amount of retailers right now in Texas and San Diego, and they actually reached out to us, which was so like affirming.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they found us on Instagram and then referrals. So like shout out Max and Market and Coco Andre, really great Mexican-owned businesses that they are always looking to elevate Black and brown founders too. So I think that they just seen the alignment there and like wanted to link up. So that has been very special to us in knowing that you can be a product rooted in your heritage, but still find like mass market appeal, which is like what we're starting to find now that we're having conversations with like larger retailers, which can't share just yet, but you guys will just have to follow us.
We will follow. We will share when it happens. We'll have you guys back on, you and Kayla. And actually, we should probably have Aaron on with you the next time. And that way we can get both of you. And it's time for innovation. You can give the Black on Shelf family that first word, and we'll help you just get the word out and fully support it so you stay on shelf, you know?
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate it.
We will leave by asking, what does it feel to be brown on shelf? Because that is also important to our mission.
Yeah, well, I am Black African.
You are Black. You're Afro-Latina. What does it feel to be Black on shelf? We can go there.
Yeah, it feels damn good.
How significant it is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, you know. I will say, like, it's difficult for everyone, whether you are Black or brown or not. It is difficult, but we face a unique set of challenges that other entrepreneurs don't, and that's just a reality of the world, unfortunately. But it makes these wins that much sweeter, especially when you know, like, no, like, this is a labor of love from my culture, and like, you're gonna see this, like, you know, and we're here. So don't stop. Don't let those hurdles get in the way. But I mean, prepare for them. They're going to be there. But it makes the wins that much better.
Yeah. And if there's any word of advice or encouragement, you're already giving us some here that you can give to the Boss Fam, what might that be? And that'll close us out.
I would just say to focus. Whatever you take on is going to take an incredible amount of focus, more focus than you may have even anticipated going into it. But that is what's going to carry you through to the next step. So just focus.
I love that. Plain and simple. Let's all focus. And where can our audience, where can the Boss Fam find you? Where can they buy Agua Bonita right now online, so we can just give them the website? We'll include everything in the show notes as well, but you can tell us where to find you, where to follow Agua Bonita.
Yeah, so you can buy us directly online at www.drinkaguabonita.com. In a couple weeks, you'll find us on Amazon. And yeah, and then if we are sold out, which we might be right now.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's good though. Get on the wait list if you're sold out. Just coming back. It's coming back.
Sign up for our newsletter because we love our Bonita Familia, and we're always sending out like cool new stuff. Like if you want to try new flavors before anyone else gets to try them.
Yes.
So we'll make the wait worth your while. But yeah, head to our Instagram at Drink Agua Bonita, sign up for our newsletter, just get on board.
Yes. And lastly, are you still doing consulting for those that might have heard you talk about that and wondering, should I reach out? Are you still doing any consulting for businesses?
I haven't been consulting in a formal capacity, but I'm always happy to take a conversation, do a virtual coffee, and kind of chat through some things that you might be going through. I feel like that's probably the easiest right now. So not in a formal capacity, but hit me up, LinkedIn, like slide in my DMs, and we will take it over to Zoom. So
there you go. Kayla is lifting as she climbs. We love it. We love to see it so much. That was Agua Bonita for you guys.